Introducing Tony and Other People, a podcast. Here's your host, Tony Levesque.
Erin Monnat, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Tony.
We play in a band together. Well, I guess you can call it a band. I don't think it's really a band without a drummer, right?
No. A trio. We'll call it a trio.
Yeah. It's always hard to explain to people, like, oh, we're an acoustic trio, and that just sounds
Weird.
pretentious.
It does.
A little bit.
Like,
oh, we're better than you.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a band.
Well, and I don't play an instrument.
Yeah, you do, sometimes.
I just sing.
Yeah. You used to play guitar a little.
Yeah, I did.
What happened?
Children.
Yeah.
Children happened.
You could still play, you just...
I do at home, but it's hard to, like, actually practice. It takes 20 minutes to just play one song because I have to stop many times.
I hear you.
But they're worth it.
And you got two.
2.
Yeah.
1 and 3.
So I talk to a lot of people that have 2 kids that say that's the big difference. Like, you see somebody in Walmart with 1 kid and they're smiling, having a good time. And then you see somebody with 2 kids and
they look tired.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Especially when they're 2 years apart.
Yeah.
That was definitely not planned. Yes.
Sorry, I'm just adjusting your volume. This is very professional, by the way.
I'm always quiet. You guys always have to adjust my volume.
So I don't know exactly what you do for a job. I kind of know you work in the school, Beaver River. Right?
I do. I just started there in November.
You were at South Louis before.
I was.
Okay.
I miss it.
Yeah.
South Louis is an amazing district.
More people need to say that because I went to school at South Louis, and anytime you tell people that, they're like, oh, South Louis.
Well, it's because they don't really know what goes on there and the kinds of people that work there.
Mm.
They care about kids more than any other place that I've ever worked.
Yeah.
And they put more time and effort into kids than any other place I've ever worked. I mean, I love Beaver River, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But
You're going to get in trouble now.
No, I'm honest about it. And I've always told people that I work with at South Louis that it's the best district. And I felt honored to have worked there with those people. They put their all into what they do there. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of inspiring to be a part of that, or
That's
to
cool.
have been a part of that, I guess.
Yeah. Do you see yourself going back there eventually?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Kids,
it's nice
though.
working close to home, isn't it?
Yeah, kids. Oh, yeah, and when there's blinding snowstorms, I don't have to drive 45 minutes, which I like.
That's always nice.
Yes. Beaver River's literally 5 minutes away.
I don't know why they couldn't put South Louis down on level ground somewhere. You know, Lions Falls would have been great, or Glenfield, or instead they're like, oh, good luck getting up here.
Yeah, Glenfield was definitely the closer drive, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think anyone walks to school at South Louis.
No, that's not true. There's kids in Port Leyden that do.
No, I mean the high school.
The high school, probably not.
No.
It would have been nice if they had one campus, though. I think that would have.
You think so?
Yeah, I really thought that was going to happen.
Growing up there, I really liked the elementary school. I did excellent in Port Leyden. I loved it. It's of course very small, so I get why they want to put it all in one. It makes sense. But once I got up to the high school, it was quite overwhelming starting out so small and comfortable, knowing everybody, and then thrust into the chaos that was the high school.
I think having one building would alleviate some of that mystery, though.
You think so?
Yeah, kids would be more immersed in the culture.
They start out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like at Beaver River, it's all one building, and the elementary kids are walking through in their lines to go to PE or wherever else they go, I guess, in the middle high school. But it's nice because they just feel like they belong there, so that when they get to Miller High School, it's not such a huge transition, I think.
I think the argument when we were in school was that you don't want to mix the high school kids with the little, but they don't care about each other at all. Like, what high school kid wants to mess with the little tiny kid? Dude?
Generally speaking, I don't think that's usually an issue.
Right.
I'm sure there's outlier kind of situations, but
well, those kids suck anyway. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah.
Not
Stop
everyone
the
is nice.
bullying, man.
I deal with that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I do.
All sides of it, I'm sure, too.
all sides of it.
So what exactly do you do there?
I'm actually considered a guidance counselor at Beaver River. That's kind of an archaic term. The new shift is
They got to stop switching all the terms.
Well,
they all mean the same thing, right?
They don't. That's the thing. They don't mean
really?
the same
You're
thing.
gonna school me now.
I'll school you. A school counselor is what we're called, or supposed to be called now. And the idea behind that is the traditional model is guidance counselors would do scheduling. They would, help you fill out an application for college, write you a letter of recommendation. Right. It's more the career college aspect that a guidance counselor is supposed to be, or traditionally that's how you think of them. A school counselor is different because the shift is really the school counselor is supposed to attend to not only like the academic and career piece. Now they want school counselors to also work on the social emotional piece as well, which at the middle school level I do on a daily basis. So
a little bit of drama there.
Drama and hormones all the time. Yep.
Now, is it worse with the boys or the girls?
It's different. I don't think it's worse.
Right.
Boys tend to be more physical, and actually research suggests that boys, when they're mean, they are very obvious about it.
Right. So we're all cavemen
I guess that's what the research is saying, but relational aggression is more prevalent in girls. That is the whisper about someone behind their back, start a rumor, gossip, leave people out on purpose, kind of, I guess, bullying. So,
do you think that tends to last longer in life than the male aggression?
You mean the effects of it?
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I'm sure there are case studies about it, and I do think, based on just my own work with kids, it doesn't matter what form it comes in. It does have lasting effects on kids.
Right.
It shapes their experience. It shapes how they look at the world around them and how they relate to other people.
What do you think happened with the kid in Florida? What do you think? I mean, other than his mother dying, of course, that didn't help the situation at all. But where do you think they went wrong with that kid?
I'm not sure it's a question of where they went wrong or who went wrong.
Right.
I think it's a question of resiliency. Some people have coping strategies, coping skills to be more resilient, and some people don't. Some people have higher risk factors, meaning things like grief, like loss. And then there's people that have a lot of protective factors, things that stop them from making those choices. Like a strong relationship with a grandparent or a really close friend. I think it's not fair to just say there's a certain recipe that will produce a productive person. I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. And the same is true of people that I guess are not productive members of society or participate in some kind of tragedy in some way. I think it's really more specific to the individual, and as a human being, their experience relates a lot to the choices that they make. So I don't know that it's black and white enough to say, well, what went wrong? I think there's too many factors there.
Right. But do you agree that there's more that needs to be done?
In the schools?
Yeah.
I think, I think there's a lot of discussion about how we should come at this. More mental health services, more gun control. But I think people are looking at it from a very, like a government point of view. Like we need to make things stricter or more difficult for people to get guns or more access to mental health. And maybe those things are true. But at the end of the day, the realistic part is that there's been a tremendous deterioration in moral code. And I know that's, again, pretty general, and I'm not saying every parent is not parenting. I'm not even saying parents in general are the reason. But as a society, the way that we look at other people, the way we relate to one another has changed.
I agree that it's very general. I know a lot of people like to put it on the religion isn't in the households as much. The households are split up. There's a lot more divorce, a lot more split families. And I think you're right. Generally, it's just everything.
Right.
Everything. We're not getting the moral fiber that we used to, I guess.
Agreed. So. I think kids just, a lot of kids, I hate to say the word survival, but it is like survival to them. And they learn how to protect themselves and put walls up. And they're not taught how, like explicitly taught how to positively relate to other human beings. And so, when they're not getting that explicit instruction in how to be a good person, or someone's not right there to build that character, it's very easy for them to make choices that they can't take back. They don't have enough forethought, I think, to figure out that what they're doing has lasting effects, or to even consider how those choices might affect the people around them. I think in the case of Florida, that student seemed to be not only aware of it, but purposely wanting to hurt others. And it's easy to be mad at him. But my first question was, what must he have been going through to feel like that's what he needed to do?
What really confused me about always when you see these schools, well, I can't say always, but most of the time when you see these horrible tragedy, school shootings, and not even just in school, but when people go out and mass murder, it almost always ends the same way. And why this kid didn't do that is the most confusing part to me. And now that he doesn't want the death penalty, he wants to live the rest of his life out in prison. That's what I don't understand, because you think psychos are black and white, you know what I mean? Crazy people are crazy people, but not. There's a lot of different
layers,
subtleties to it.
Agreed. I think that people will be spending a lot of time with him in the coming years, trying to understand the motivations, trying to understand why the situation occurred, what was going on in his life. I mean, again, this goes back to risk factors and protective factors, and how he has unfortunately not developed enough resiliency to be positive in light of negative things that were occurring in his life. And it's not easy to say it happened because of A, B, C, D, E.
Right.
It's really more of a personal matter. And I think we need to be more sensitive to everybody's experience in general. And I think if more people were doing that, then you would see less people feeling like they need to make a huge impact in such a negative way.
I think it's like we were talking about earlier, too. It's hard to put yourself in anyone else's shoes, let alone somebody going through puberty, adolescence.
Yeah.
Because the world is completely different to them, on top of the raging stuff that is going through their body and brain.
Absolutely.
And they don't have the knowledge, the wisdom that older people have living life to deal with that and to know what's important and what's not. Because a lot of high school drama is just that. It's just high school drama. But some people take it and really have lasting memories and messed up things because of one little incident that happened in high school that embarrassed them.
Right.
I mean, I think we all have those.
Absolutely. But I do think that at the end of the day, kindness is what matters. And that is so lost. It's not a part of everyday experience. And even as a school counselor, especially at South Louis, I spent a lot of time fostering kindness in the elementary children that I worked with, because I know that at the end of the day, nobody remembers that you got 100 on your math test. Nobody remembers even that you were the star track athlete in some cases, but they will always remember how you treated them. And that will have a lasting impact on not only how they see you in the future, but sometimes it really makes a difference in how they see themselves. And I think if we just spent more time focusing on building children's character and fostering a pro-social environment for them, that we would see changes in how they relate to one another. Truly.
Do you think social media is really the hardest thing to, how do I want to say this? I think we're going a certain direction with making people socially the way that they should be, forming the society, forming our future with the children. But it seems like social media is just a roadblock, like something thrown in the path to twist and distort what we've worked so hard to instill in children and the future.
Well, I do think it's definitely a monkey wrench. Kids now can have phones at school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can be in the middle of science class, Snapchat something.
I think that's
and
so wrong.
Well, I will say that I think it's a huge reason, a contributing factor, if you will, to the reason why kids just don't relate well to one another.
Mm-hmm.
They spend more time hiding behind a screen than they do actually communicating face to face. They say things and do things on social media that they would not be comfortable doing to someone's face. It's like it's kind of a cowardly way of hurting someone, I think.
I think as well the edited conversations, like you and I talking right now. I could go back and edit this. I'm not going to. But when you're texting your friend, you can say awful things. Oh, no, I'm not going to say that. Change your mind.
Right.
Kind of put the words back into your mouth. And the same with Facebook and all of the social media, that so many of the conversations unknowingly are edited. So you have a lot more time to think about what you're saying, which you would think would be a good thing, but sometimes it can be way worse.
Well, I always tell my kids, whatever you put in print is there forever, regardless of whether you delete it or you think it's off your hard drive or you think it's off your phone. It's somewhere recorded forever, and you have to remember that whatever you put down in print, you have to own that, and you have to think about the consequences of that. And you're right. Sometimes I think it really does help kids think it through and make better decisions on what they say. Mm-hmm. But I think there's others that still just aren't there yet. And at this age, I think impulse control is very difficult. Some kids are better at that than others, which I think has always been the case. Mm-hmm. But the part of your brain that controls your decision-making processes, it's not developed yet. It doesn't happen until you're like in your early 20s. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that kids aren't thinking things through. But now we've just given them more tools to disseminate information or thoughts or feelings or opinions, and not necessarily teaching them how to censor that. They need explicit instruction. And sometimes as adults, we forget that. Truly.
I agree. Do you think grammar is dead?
Well, I guess it depends. Texting is no good for that. Yeah. But I do think it does get kids actually writing more.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, the mechanics might be gone, but they're writing more.
I can't stand to see a Facebook post that people write like it's a text message.
Oh, yeah.
The word "you" is only 3 letters. You know what I mean?
Write it out.
The word "to" is only 2 letters. T-O, right?
Well, unless it's...
Well, we're not even going to go into that. 2. Yeah.
Yeah. 2, and 2.
And all of these social media apps come with spell check.
They do. They do.
It drives me nuts. I'm so fearful of the future of language. Technology is making us super lazy.
Well, that's true, and that's not just a kid thing. That's a grown-up thing too.
Oh yeah.
But I do see the other side of it, where people who are not comfortable with writing or feeling like they are very confident, I think, in their abilities, it gives them another chance to practice it. And maybe it's not the correct form, but at least it's a starting point for some people. Generations past, they didn't have computer access. Like my grandfather, he gets on and he emails me sometimes, and it's just amazing to me because he came from a world where that was not even thought of yet. Yeah. So it is neat. It's a neat form of communication, and I think it does foster confidence in writing. But I think you're right. The mechanics and the grammar have definitely gone by the wayside. It's cultural.
Yeah, and I guess it's always stuff moving forward. I mean, we haven't really had to deal with this much. As a kid, you think, well, my parents do things so screwed up and backwards, and we know way more now. And the older we get, we want to yell at the kids for thinking that, but it's true.
Our kids will think that of us as well.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Isn't that weird, worrying about what your kids are going to think of you?
I think about...
Like when they're little, it's easy. You know that they know that you're Superman. You know what I mean?
And they're pretty transparent at this age, too.
Yeah.
They just tell you what's on their mind.
I'm going to adjust this real quick.
Better?
Well, if you're not talking directly into it, see.
Gotcha.
This is very professional, as I said. You know how professional I am.
Which is one of my favorite things about you. You're a real human being.
I was being sarcastic.
I wasn't.
No.
Truly.
Okay.
You're not pretentious at all. It's fun to work with you. Truly.
Thanks. It's mutual.
Thanks.
We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, we do. Maybe too much fun sometimes.
Yeah, alcohol can help.
Yeah, or hinder,
Yeah.
depending on how you look at it. Yes.
Honestly, it's been weird. I've been sober now for a couple months.
I'm proud of you.
I don't know if it's anything to be proud of. I didn't do it for a statement or to change
No.
my life. I just don't want to drink. But thank you
It's.
for being proud.
I have noticed. I think that's hard to do when you are immersed in it. You know, we're out at bars all the time. Sometimes it's really easy just to get a drink because everybody else is.
I haven't noticed the temptation at all. Like I was telling Heather yesterday that the only thing I've really been tempted with, it'd be nice to get a bottle of wine and sit at home, you know. And I used to be a wine drinker, you know. I prefer beer, but something about sitting at home with a bottle of wine is
Relaxing.
nice. But what I've been craving is the taste. You
Really?
know, not the, because I like wine.
What's your favorite kind?
Melbeck. I'm a Melbeck guy. I like a dark, or not a dark. Now I'm going to sound like an idiot. I like a dry red.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not into the sweet ones.
I like semi-sweet.
Yeah. You like the local stuff, don't you?
I love the local stuff.
Yeah.
I love anything by Tug Hill Vineyards, basically.
There's a free plug for Tug Hill Vineyards.
Hey.
You're welcome, Vineyards.
It's good stuff. I mean, they speak for themselves.
They treat us well, too.
Yes, they are really good people. They offer a really comfortable environment. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
like whenever people are asking where we're playing next and they hear we're playing there, like, oh, we're gonna be there.
Mm-hmm.
I think people just like it. It's an atmosphere where you just feel like you're at home almost.
I feel like every place that we play is different.
It is.
I can honestly say I thoroughly enjoy every place
I do too.
that we play.
I do too.
Different factors. You know.
Yeah, there's different reasons. Different places are awesome.
I
Yep.
love playing Towpath because we can do whatever we want there. People really they're there to eat wings on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
And even when nobody claps or you know.
But they're jamming along.
Yeah.
And there's some people that come every single time we're there, so they get to know our set list, which is really cool. I like that about Towpath.
I like the rowdiness of the Alpine. I think it being a little dimmer in there and the regulars, and it gets a little... it's not really rowdy, not compared to what we've seen. But it's the right amount of rowdiness there.
Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Definitely. I was very impressed by the enthusiasm. And I've only played there once, so I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that.
So let's go back into the history of your musical career.
Is there a history?
Well, you must have started singing at a young age. That's what all female musicians say. I was 3 years old at church.
I don't really know that there's a history, unless you count like The Little Mermaid.
Hmm?
So my sisters and I, we loved that movie, and there were 4 of us, and we would have singing contests. My sister Jamie and I would always vote for one another, and then the other 2 sisters would always vote for one of us. So one of us would always win, and they just never picked up on the fact that we were doing that until years later. Yeah. Yep. But
Sneaky.
yeah, we were sneaky. But yeah, I think high school is when I really started to feel like I enjoyed singing. I guess it was just not on my radar before then. So in high school, I spent a lot of time cultivating that skill, and I had some amazing mentors in high school. Kendra Verkler would be my choral music teacher, and I still think the world of her. I think she does an amazing job of helping kids find their potential. And she worked a lot with me in my senior year, and I remember it was probably about this time in my senior year, and I was having some kind of identity crisis I had already committed to St. Lawrence University in the psychology program, and I went to her and I was like, I really think I should be a music teacher. I love to sing, and I love what you do, and I've been so inspired by you. And she's amazing, and she kind of helped me realize that you don't necessarily have to pick one love in your life. You can do a lot of different things. So while I was at St. Lawrence, I chose to take music classes. And their music program's not like Crane. It's not nearly that intense. It's more of like a music history program. So I took a lot of coursework on, of course, music theory, which is incredibly intense. But I also took a lot of like music history classes, which was very fun. I took like a jazz course and a popular music from the 20s course. I did an independent study where I went in depth and I learned a ton about Billie Holiday, and I wrote like a 40-page paper, and I had to do my own little Billie Holiday concert at college, which was really cool. So,
do you think it's important to know music history because it's constantly changing? I mean, what did you learn about Billie Holiday that can change music nowadays?
I felt like I got to choose what I would study, and I chose her because I felt like her music wasn't just music. It was a social statement.
Right.
And I was inspired by how music was the tool. It was the way that she chose to talk about the social unrest at that time. Strange Fruit. I mean, I don't come from that experience. And I fully understand that I participate in white privilege, not because I choose to, but because of where I'm raised and how I'm socialized. And that was incredibly eye-opening for me. And to really think about what Strange Fruit meant was, I guess intense was the word. I do remember really thinking about it and talking about it with my professor at the time and feeling like, wow, music is so much more than just words, so much more than just melodies and harmonies and instrumentation. It's about feeling. So that was a really neat experience for sure.
With white privilege, I gotta tiptoe around all these subjects, but I don't think with the rest of anybody that's non-white, I don't think they understand that we appreciate what we've been given.
Absolutely. There's definitely that perspective.
And it's totally not fair.
It's not necessarily about appreciating it. It's about recognizing that it exists. And I guess I just had never before that time in my life really thought about that. Like I can walk through Louville and not think about being white.
Right.
But I don't know that other people with different experiences could say the same.
I think a lot of people don't understand too. Like where we grew up, growing up, I had one black kid at South Louis the entire time I went to school. So I don't think we understand racial issues like they do in inner city places where you're going to see every race there is every day.
Yep.
Here, I remember seeing my first Asian person. Now, how many people that live in a city can say that because you're around?
You're immersed in it, so it's not like.
I just remember being confused, like, whoa, what's going on there?
Yep.
But I think it's the same if you lived in, say, the middle of Africa.
Yeah.
How many other races do they see every day?
Right.
So I think it's a little more difficult for people like that to understand racism because you're not dealing with it. And around here, everyone gets put down. Well, we're mostly white, so it's mostly white people being put down by white people.
Right.
That's just part of growing up.
Yeah.
So I think the racial issues, I mean, there's always racial issues, but
Absolutely.
I think they're different up here where we live because we
lack cultural diversity.
Right.
It's pretty homogenous. Yeah.
And we're not forced to deal with it every single day.
Right. Right.
But with technology and news the way that it is, and we get to see the rest of the world now, and
which I'm thankful for.
Yeah. I
Truly.
mean, it just adds so much stress on, on our lives, though.
Adds a
Thinking
lot of
about the
layers.
world every day, you can't get on Facebook and not just be local with your thinking. I mean, you're forced to know what happens with the rest of the world at all times.
That's true.
It's good and it's distracting at the same time.
There are positive and negatives to everything.
There's so much you can do and so much that you can't do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We got way off topic.
Hey, that's okay. This is your podcast. You get to decide what we talk
I
about.
can do whatever I want.
Isn't that kind of nice?
It is. It is.
Yes.
I've been looking forward to doing this for a long time.
Well, you're doing very cool things.
Well, thank you.
I only listened.
You as well.
I listened to the Dean Richards podcast so far. It was like an hour long.
Dean's a smart guy.
Super, super smart guy. But I look forward to listening to the other ones too. I'm sure there's a lot of really good insights that you cover in those.
Yeah.
So,
People are awesome.
as are you.
Well, thank you.
What made you want to do this podcast? Like, where did this idea come from?
I don't know. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I watch a lot of them. I enjoy watching different people interact because I don't deal with a whole lot of people face to face all day like I used to. When I worked in the coffee shop, I'd see
Everyone.
100 people, of all walks of life. Everyone drinks coffee, and if you don't, you're probably in there getting coffee for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So dealing with and interacting with people and trying to, because you're a salesman, if you're sitting there selling, making coffee for people, you're trying to sell them something. I mean, they're in the store, so they're already sold. But I like the idea of keeping people there with conversation.
Right.
So you find something that somebody likes or a mutual like, and I like talking with people.
You're a very good conversationalist.
Well, thank you.
Truly. And you have a very charismatic, welcoming personality. I actually remember the first time I met you.
You're such a kiss ass.
Was there. I'm honest. I don't ever say anything that I don't actually mean. And people that know me well know that about me.
Well, that's nice.
But I do think it's important to tell people what you think. Again, this is kind of what we talked about earlier in the podcast. I think it's really important to use kindness when it's warranted, and letting people know what you really think in a positive way is important. They need that feedback. If we were giving people more positive feedback, I think that would help our culture as a whole. We just spend a lot of time focusing on the negative and what people are doing wrong and not necessarily building them up.
I think a lot of people, too, don't realize that giving kindness feels great. I don't think people understand how awesome that is. If you go through one day and just say nothing but kind things to people and to yourself,
Yep.
And appreciate things, and kindness feels awesome.
It does. It's a super elementary term, but when I was working at South Louis, we had a common language and we called it bucket filling.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a whole book for kids. There's 3 or 4 actually now, but the concept is that when you do something nice or kind for someone else, you fill their bucket. Some people need more bucket filling than others, but the cool thing about it is when you're filling someone else's bucket, you're filling your own at the very same time, which is what you're speaking to. And the other piece of that is the amount of kindness you put out into the world is directly proportionate to the amount of kindness you get back. When I tell kids that, they think about that. What am I putting out there that makes people want to be kind to me or unkind?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't change how other people treat you, but you can change your own choices and the way that you choose to interact with other people, and that will definitely have an impact on how much kindness comes your way. Truly.
Awesome. See, this is why I had you on here.
Yeah.
So you can tell the world this stuff.
I don't know that
Some people don't get to hear this stuff, Some people, their whole life is getting on Facebook in the morning and living there for the rest of the day. And depending on who you have for friends or who you follow can directly affect your life.
Yep.
Social media, I think we took it as a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Because we were around for the start of it.
Yeah, what was that?
AOL Instant Messenger.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes, and what was like the first Facebook? It was called something
MySpace?
else. MySpace.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Heather and I met on MySpace.
Did you
Look
really?
at this guy. 2 snowmobilers going right across my lawn.
Wow. Respect.
Yeah.
Maybe that's another word we should talk about.
People out there on snowmobiles, and the local people do this too. Look at that. how do you not respect somebody else's property? Hold on, I'm going to go out and yell at him. And we're back. Here I'm talking about being kind, and I went to go yell at some snowmobilers, but snowmobiles are fast.
They are.
They are.
I don't know.
Respect goes a long way.
It does. It's lacking.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were talking about social media. I think even if you just participate in social media, you can see that our ability to respect each other regardless of what we believe, what we think, or what our opinion is.
Yeah.
It's not there. We're missing that. I think it's important to be respectfully curious and to be able to listen to somebody else's point of view without necessarily believing you have to bring them to your way of thinking. Or I don't know. I find that very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
I do have friends on my Facebook that have completely different viewpoints than I have. But I respect that they have a viewpoint and that it's important to them. I wish more people could see it that way.
Opinions are just that, and people take them as fact or
They
hurtful.
do. Very personally, yeah.
And I've noticed this with the whole Hillary Clinton-Trump, since that started, this past election. Just so many opinions, and every single person in this country, in this world, has the right to have an opinion.
That's what
right
makes
or
America
wrong.
great.
Yeah.
Truly. That's our foundation.
But I think our opinions mean a lot more now. I think people take offense to them a lot more, and it shouldn't be that way. We should use those differences to have a conversation.
And make change happen.
Yes.
I agree.
That is good for all.
Right.
Which is very difficult. There's 300 million people in this country.
Absolutely.
And to keep everyone happy is impossible. It's not going to happen. And here's another thing I wanted to talk about with you, because I want to know your opinion on it. Trump gets bashed. He really does.
Oh, every
And
day.
I don't want to say deserving, but it's hard with his attitude not to think, well, you deserve all this coming towards you. But what is this doing to the children that we tell not to bully people, not to say horrible things about people, and then people can't stop talking about how small Trump's hands are, which is something he can't do anything about.
Change that, yeah.
You know, this is what we're teaching our children, is that you can't do that in school. You can't bully people in school. You can't bully people in life. But if they put themselves on a pedestal up there, you can pick on the president all day because he chose to be the president,
right,
and asked for it to happen.
Right, yeah, he's a public figure, so he invited that conversation.
So it's okay because he's not a real person, and you can say whatever you want about him, and chances are he'll never hear it or ignore it anyway. So why not? Don't you think that is so backwards?
But isn't that really what we were talking about before with the lack of moral fiber? I think it just stems back to that. We model for children how not to behave, and then we get angry with them when they choose to behave that way in the first place. So I do think that we as a culture have made it very clear that we want our kids to do well. We want them to succeed. We want them to be nice to one another, but we're not going to model that for them. We're kind of leaving them to figure that out on their own. And some of them are not coming to that conclusion because, as you're saying, it's that negativity, that judgment, that I guess those negative opinions, they're out there everywhere. And they're not only seeing grown-ups doing it to one another, but I mean, if you participate in social media, you see grown-ups doing that to children. So it's hard to change their mindset and to help them believe that being kind and respectful to one another is the right thing to do when that's not the message they're getting overall from our society, from our culture.
I agree.
It's hard.
Kids these days.
It's complex, isn't it?
I want to say adults these days. Parents.
Adults these days. I do want to say, Tony.
Yes.
To be clear, when we're talking about kids in general, I don't want you to think that I'm saying all kids are negative or all kids think that way, because I will tell you, I've met so many kids in both schools I've worked in that disprove that theory, and kids that are amazing and pro-social and just incredibly kind, and they are the hope.
Yeah.
And I tell them that when I come across those kids, I'm like, you need to keep doing what you're doing and let that rub off on people around you, because it's amazing.
Let those kids be the prom king. Let those kids be the
class president or
what people or other kids look up to.
Yeah.
Rather than the bully that gets the laughs for picking on the little kid.
Right. So we can't necessarily change what messages they get. We can't control that piece of it, but we can certainly do our best to give them new and positive messages, and to train, if you will, kids who are amenable to that idea, train them to be a positive role model for their peers. Absolutely.
That's great. So let's get back to music.
Music, yeah, I like music. I love music.
That's a little lighter subject.
I know. And I will say, I'm not used to people asking me my opinions on things, so that's great. And I'm not one to like generally share.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. Thank you.
Oh, we can always come back to this.
No, I feel like I'm spent on this.
Okay, we're done.
Music it is.
So you got started in high school with chorus.
Oh, yeah. Select chorus. I did all that stuff.
How did you... I know a lot of people... I was in chorus in school and select chorus. I didn't like it. I mean, I did and I didn't. I didn't like the whole group, big, huge group singing.
Yeah.
At all the concerts, I used to just mouth the words. I really enjoyed singing, and at home especially.
Yeah.
But going to the concerts, I just... the dressing up and...
the formality of it. Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it. But how do you go from chorus in high school to where we are now, playing music in bars? What's the transition? What was the transition for you?
I don't think I actually ever saw this happening. Like if you had asked me 10 years ago about this, I would have thought that would never be something I'd be willing to do. I really struggled, especially in college, with confidence and stage fright and judgment. I've always struggled with feeling judged, and so I didn't necessarily want to put myself out there as much. But when I started South Louis, there was a music teacher. Was her first year teaching as well. She I think she was from Fredonia. I think that was the college she went to. And I just connected with her immediately. And her name was Lily, and she kind of recognized that I had a passion for music that was just sort of untapped. Like I was just sort of letting that be an interest and not doing anything with it. And I think she totally recognized it was a confidence issue. So she pushed me. And she had a guitar. Like she would play. She's amazing. She would like play like Raffi style in music class with her kids, and they would sing along, and it was awesome. So I asked her to show me a couple chords. I was truly interested, and I think a friendship really grew very quickly out of that. And I went out a couple weekends later and bought my first like real guitar. And we just started jamming together, and she would teach me things, and we were writing music together at one point. I think it was really the jumping off point. I knew that she wasn't going to be at South Louis permanently. I knew she'd be moving on to different things. She definitely wanted to be a high school band teacher. She is a high school band teacher now.
That's awesome.
But I think she pushed me out of my shell, and so I recognized that Mike Shaw was just like a local artist, and I happened to see him. It was Halloween, and I just happened to see him out, and I was, less than myself sober wise, and initiated a conversation and just said, "Hey, yeah, we should jam together. We should sing sometime." And he surprisingly texted me the next day and said, "Well, when do you want to get together? When do you want to try this out?" So he came over. I I don't remember the timeline of that, but he came over and he had some drinks with Frank and I, and we started working on Wagon Wheel. That was our first song.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. And we still play that one out because everybody loves that song.
Almost end with it sometime. Like,
yeah.
We save that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, everybody loves it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be one of those timeless songs, no matter where you go, who you're like, what the scenery is.
I'm okay with that. There's a lot of timeless songs that I'm not okay with, but that's a great one.
Truth. But that one, yeah, I like that one. So I think things just took off from there. I started doing like 1 or 2 songs at shows with him until it kind of grew to 10 or 15, and then all of a sudden, like, I was like a paid musician.
Yeah.
But I will give him a lot of credit. He definitely had a lot of patience with me. At the beginning, I was like, I would literally throw up in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I was so nervous. And I had a hard time.
You still get nervous too.
Well, it's harder, like, coming back, like, off, like, it took a long time when I had kids, for both kids. It took like 6 to 8 months for both kids, just because it was just stressful to do all of it. And so coming back was pretty anxiety provoking. And I know you and Mike are super humble about your talents and abilities, but I will say that working with accomplished musicians is intimidating sometimes. Truly.
I don't know about accomplished, but
I feel very accomplished.
I think as a group, we're way better than individually. Although Mike is one of the most talented people I've ever worked with. Just because he can play anything, he can sing anything, and pretend like it's nothing. Yeah. And he is super humble about what he does.
Which is why it can be very intimidating.
And the same goes for you, because you can sing anything. And I always laugh when you get nervous about, I don't want to play this, I'm going to screw it up. Because you never screw it up. And if you do, I don't notice, and I play music, so that the crowd will definitely not notice.
Well, thank you. It's definitely an honor to work with people who are just encouraging. I feel like you and I are a little more verbally encouraging to one another. Mike's just more like, get up there and do it.
But that's what I like about Mike. He's laid back. He's like, well, we got to play this gig. Might as well just get up here and do it.
Yeah. You guys are very easy to work with.
Well, I think the three of us all have different personalities that fit like a glove for what we're doing.
I agree.
So
I agree. This has been my favorite part of music thus far. I definitely enjoyed working with Mike, just the two of us, but when you came on board, it really brought a different dynamic, and I like it. I like it a lot.
I feel sometimes like it's redundant, like you don't really need the bass there or the extra voice.
Yes, we do.
But sometimes it feels like, oh, this is nice. This is all together.
Mike and I have talked. You know, I don't know where you were, what was going on, but we've definitely talked about this when you weren't around, and we both agree that the sound is just, it's fuller. It just.
Well, we're used to it now, so when you take it away, it seems thin.
Yeah.
You know,
it does.
It's like when we do gigs without you. Like, okay, this is okay. We're doing well, but we're missing a little something here.
Yeah. So you're very necessary.
Well, I think we're all necessary. Thank you. Now that we've kissed each other's asses enough. Yeah. Good discussion. A good discussion about music.
No, I definitely have always had a passion for it, and I was really lucky. My stepfather, he is obsessed. I remember
played harmonica on the album.
Yeah, I did. When he first moved in with my mom and my sisters, and basically he brought like this enormous CD collection. 'Cause, you know, back in the Stone Age we had CDs.
We're gonna seem really young to some people,
really old to others.
Yeah.
And I remember he had everything from like George Strait and Garth Brooks to AC/DC and Paul McCartney and the Beatles, and he had classical music. I mean, he had literally the gamut. Anything you could think of, he had it. And I remember just really understanding music early on because I was just exposed to so much. And everything we did, there was music. I remember we were playing outside, there was music. We were eating dinner, there was music. We were at a family party, there was music. So it was just so much a part of my experience. I'm just so thankful that I was lucky enough to have that at a young age. You really inspired that, I think.
That's awesome.
So Now that I like in my own, like on my iPod,
Mhm.
it's very eclectic. Truly.
Isn't it nice to get to that point where you're no longer embarrassed by what you like for music?
Well, I don't know if I'm no longer embarrassed. Depends on the
But-
crowd that I'm in.
But
But yeah.
we are. I think once you get past 30,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't care. I like this.
Yeah.
And not just music, but everything. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care who knows it. I like this.
Well, you're set in who you are now. Like you
Don't
feel
you wish you could give that to some of these high school kids?
every
Like,
day.
enjoy what you enjoy and screw what anyone else thinks.
Every day, I wish that I could get them to see that. But it's hard.
It is.
Social pressure is really important.
And this
at that
wraps
age.
around to where we were talking before, that if kids knew what we knew,
Oh, if kids knew what we knew, how different things would be for them right now.
there's probably a reason the world doesn't work that way. I'm sure in the grand design it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, they don't have the life experience,
Right.
and they can't because they haven't been alive that long. But once they get it,
Do you think it's
they get to
because
the
we're
point-
jaded too? Like, we've been through enough life to where we're like, oh, this doesn't matter. I don't care about this. I used to have a Hanson CD. I'll say that on a podcast. I don't care.
And that's okay that you're. It's inspiring that you're comfortable just saying I like. What do I have on mine? That I'm pretty sure I have some Backstreet Boys on mine.
Yeah.
Or some NSYNC.
Yeah.
Which again totally makes me look like a dinosaur.
Everybody.
But is that the Puppet music video?
I think so.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it is too. Yes, it is. Yep.
But I think that's a good thing because we're getting rid of shame, which is, I think shame can be useful in very
Inappropriate situations.
very limited circumstances. I mean, there's a reason shame exists,
Sure.
But getting rid of shame is the key to being happy, I think.
I would agree with that. I think it just means that you've kind of arrived. You are comfortable with who you are.
Accepting who you are. And I think it's hard for people to accept that they could change for the better. And it has to be done delicately. Like, you don't want anyone saying, you shouldn't do that, or you should change this about yourself, because nobody wants to hear anybody. And it all depends on who is telling you. But
I see your point.
everyone could change for the better.
Absolutely.
I think the Pope could change for the better. There's some point or some thing in his life, I'm sure, that he could be a little bit better at or try harder at. I hate to bring up any religious type of thing, but it's a common,
Absolutely.
when you think of a good person, people
Right.
think of him.
Right.
Any good person you want to say. Adele. Why do people love, I mean, she's got a great voice. I get it. But they treat Adele like she's a saint. And this is dated too, isn't it?
What,
She's
Adele?
Not, yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think she's still pretty relevant.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
people look at her as just a saint. She's a bigger girl with a great voice, beautiful face, and she's so kind. And
Yeah, she broke a lot of social barriers. I think that's why she still is relevant, because people don't necessarily just see her.
her music.
Right, and she is an incredible talent, but I think she's also a really good human being, and people more often than not want to identify with that.
Right.
People don't wake up every day and say, I want to be a horrible human being today. I want to make someone's life miserable. That's not the common experience. So people like her do stand out because they do inspire you to want better for yourself and to push yourself to be your best. Truly.
And those are the idols I want out there. Those are
Absolutely.
the people that I want kids to look up to. Musical talent or not, we need to
Right.
look up to people
Who are good people.
that are doing good things for themselves and for the world.
Agreed. I think they're there. I really do. I think sometimes in our culture, we focus a lot on the negative, and that's what gets a lot of the attention. But there's a ton of good out there, too. And we don't get to control what messages mass media gives our kids, but we certainly do get to control what messages they get at home. And what we expose them to just as parents makes a huge difference on how they shape their life and their experiences in the future. So yes, I would love my kids to listen more to the Adele type music, not because I think it's better than any other kind, but because she seems to be someone who values the same things I value in a person.
Mm-hmm.
It's important.
I think the word leader is a big problem too, because Donald Trump is a leader. Is he somebody that we want our kids to end up like? I don't care and let me preface this by saying I don't care at all about politics. At all. And Heather argues with me with this all the time because she hates Trump, as a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I'm just enjoying the show.
And a show it is. Yes.
My day-to-day life doesn't change because of Donald Trump, and I don't think many people's lives do. But he's a leader, and he is somebody that we are told, like, this is what a leader is, because technically he is.
He's in a position of power, yes.
But at the same time, he's not somebody to look up to at all.
Nope.
No matter what you believe or what media you listen to, he might be good at running a business, but that doesn't make him somebody to look up to. And I'm just using him as an example.
Right.
And I think all of politics is that way, and that's why I don't care for politics, because I think all of those people are just... And I hate to say it, but even locally, I think a lot of it is those people want the job, so they have to go out and say, look how good I am. Look how much better I am than this guy.
Yeah.
And when people do that, you know that they're fake.
Right.
Because nobody that good does that. You know, Adele doesn't go out and say, look at what I'm doing. Look how good this is.
I'm so much
Check
better
this
than
out.
this person. Yeah. No, I can definitely identify with what you're saying.
I don't know where I was going with that, but...
You're talking about being a leader. How sometimes being a leader means that you have to be unsavory and you have to project an image that is not necessarily who you are, but who other people need you to be. And that's not necessarily what clearly what you and I are looking for in a leader. We're looking for someone who does right by everybody and is authentic and who does have pro-social intentions.
Mm-hmm.
That's not always the case in our government, I think. No matter what level of government you're looking at, I do think that it's a struggle to find someone who's real.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a struggle every time there's an election to
And
find a person who's real.
There's no trust anymore either. So even if somebody is real, you don't automatically trust them because they're in politics.
Pretty much. Yep. It has a bad connotation to it.
I think it's blurred the lines too with, in America especially, we're taught to, if you want something, you go out and get it. Any means
Step
necessary.
on anybody you need to. Right.
And that's exactly what it brings up, is that, kick people aside to get where you're going. That's what you need to do in your life. And that's the wrong message. You can do whatever you want in life. You really can. And I think there's certain limitations, but most people can live the life that they want to live without stepping on people to make that happen. And that's what all of these big people out there, what they're showing to the world, that, yeah, you can get whatever you want. But I had to do this and that and these unsavory things. But you don't. You don't. Especially now with the Me Too movement and that it's out there. I mean, there is no... You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, And you can still get where you want to go in life. And if you can't, you blow that whistle and pave the way for other people.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we're in a scary time right now.
A crisis. A character crisis, for sure.
I think we've exposed more than ever what people are really like now. And we're at that turning point of, how do we deal with this? Now that we know, humans are awful. Despite this whole conversation that we've had, deep down, our primal humans are awful. Humans are, we're made to evolve. We're made to reproduce and kill anything that gets in our way in order to, we're Donald Trump. Deep down, we all are. But we don't have to be. That's what we were born with. That's the body and brain that we were born with. But we can change that.
Absolutely.
Every decision you make changes that. We're all just a group of decisions.
Some of them are better than others,
That's right.
but all of them shape who we are.
But bad decisions can force way more good decisions later on. Every bad decision is not the end of the world. It's a chance to learn
It is a chance to learn.
and a chance to teach other people.
Absolutely.
It's okay to do bad things in life as long as you learn from it or somebody else learns from it.
Yep.
And you try to change that. Constantly be a better person.
Just being aware of who you are and how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're right. Bad choices are a part of that, but you get to write your own story. I mean,
That's right.
at the end of the day, you get to decide what you do with that. And there is no
And you're
perfect
responsible
person.
for that, too.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to reproduce and have kids and train them, you're responsible for that.
I wish, I wish that there were, I don't know, some way of helping people see that they have so much power and control over what happens in life. And there are things outside of your control that do shape your life experience, but those things that are within your control, you have so much power to do good things or to change or to help other people make the right choice later on in life. Just not everybody is cognizant of that power, and so they don't use it for good. So it's nice being around people that are aware of it.
Well, let's make some more of those people around us. I think we should, positivity should go everywhere. I think
It's important.
even when people are not nice to you, it's always nice to be humble and kind. I just quoted Tim McGraw. Oh.
I'm not gonna lie to you. That song is totally on my iPod.
I can't take it.
I just love that song.
I'm sure Sweet Home Alabama is a good song too, but when you hear it 10 million times.
I think that's on my iPod too.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're not embarrassed to say that.
I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I just don't enjoy it, and I'm not embarrassed to say that.
That's okay. I think it's good for everybody to have different interests and tastes, because that's how, getting back to music, that's how music has evolved into what it is. And there's so many different genres and artists.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important that we all like different things.
I think so too.
So,
It's what makes the world go round.
word.
Well, thanks for
Yes.
stopping by today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This has been very interesting. I had no idea I had so much to say. So thanks.
We didn't really say much, did we?
I often talk to people that are at least 20 years, if not way more, younger than me. So
Yeah.
that's kind of nice to have a grown-up conversation, I'll say.
It is nice.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. It's been
Thanks
a
for
pleasure.
coming over. Get a hold of Erin on social media. She's on there.
Of course.
Making fun of people all day long.
Yeah, right. No, generally speaking, I only post something if I'm confident it's a positive thing.
I think everyone should do that.
It would be helpful. But I'm not perfect. I just try. So I'm not going to lie. There might be like a Trump post here and there, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, it's usually positive.
I ignore all those, so we're good.
Good. Ignore away.
All right. Thanks, Erin.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks for listening to Tony and Other People, a podcast. Questions, comments, concerns for Tony's overall well-being? Want to be part of the show? Find us on Facebook or email us at tonyandotherpeople@gmail.com.